Let's go now to our friend Beimnet Abebe from Galaxy Trading. As always, Beimnet, welcome back to Galaxy Brains.
Thanks for having me.
What an exciting time. It's now 1 week since the election, and I think we recorded right after the election. So this is our second episode with a President-elect Trump. We now have a unified Congress. The House has been called, right, in favor of the Republicans. Obviously, we're going to talk about cryptos, which have been outperforming among all asset classes. First, though, today there were CPI numbers. Just what were they, and where do we stand?
Yeah, I mean, they were smack dab in line, 0.3 month on month for core CPI. The markets, viewed it as a benign number. You saw twos rally, from like 435 to 425 in yield, and you've sold back off since. You had a little bit more pricing put into the December FOMC. So, as we speak, it's around 20 basis points, and the Jan FOMC has about 27 basis points priced. So basically, over the next two meetings, one cut's expected. Most likely, 80% chance of one in December. I think basically what this price action tells you is that folks were a little bit worried about an upside surprise in inflation. But to be honest, like what we should really care about is the forward on inflation and forward expectations of inflation. As we've said numerously on this podcast, Trumponomics is fundamentally inflationary. His main three objectives with the economy are he wants to deport, millions of prime age illegal immigrants. That's going to, tighten up the labor force. He wants to put tariffs on some of our trade partners. That's again inflationary, and cutting taxes as well is pro-cyclical and pro-growth. And so these three pillars of his policy should net be inflationary. And so I think that's really what the market should be focused on. And we do have some seasonal effects that should kind of push inflation a bit higher over the next call it 4 to 6 months. And so, if you really digest all of that, I think, I still think there's a conceivable path for rates to go higher. I think 10s can go to close to 5% versus, 440 right now. So I think there's still a really decent repricing of the fixed income curve that you can have over the course of the next couple of months. And as you get into realizing what Trump's policies are actually going to be.
Interesting. So let's switch to crypto and Bitcoin, because
Please.
You can look here at the block clock. Bitcoin is trading at $92,720 according to the block clock.
Yeah.
We've hit almost 93. I think we might have even hit 93. We are a stone's throw from $100,000 Bitcoin. What's driving the increase? It's a rhetorical question, but tell us.
I think a lot of it is based on expectations of a friendlier administration coming into power. On the back of that, we've seen tremendous inflows into the ETF products. We've also seen a pretty sizable pickup in leverage across all futures and perps exchanges. And there's been consistent buy pressure in the US from large players.
Yeah.
And so, I would say it's a lot more buyers than sellers. And, it had a technical breakout and folks are chasing it. And there's a lot of FOMO in the market.
Yeah.
And it's in price discovery, fundamentally.
Yeah.
And what's the price of something? It's the price that people are willing to pay. And every day it seems to be going higher and higher. So I think there's a lot of folks that are now being stopped into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right? Where if you're an institution, you're looking at it, it's trading, like tens of billions of dollars a day. There's an ETF. It's liquid. It's a Trump play. It's akin to gold. It hedges you from monetary debasement. In theory, it acts like a risk asset. Basically, it's really hard for any institution to ignore.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, but when you see price action like this, it forces you to pay attention. And quite frankly, it's pretty simple. If you're not long, you're short.
Yeah. It feels like risk is to the upside right now. We've got a known expected pile of positive catalysts, but they haven't come yet. So we've got very little tangible specifics to work with, and the market seems to just be saying, well, in that case, like I'm just not long enough,
Yeah.
right? Or if I have none, like I need to get long this thing because, come even if it takes inaugurations in January, a couple months for XYZ a cabinet nominee to be confirmed by the Senate or a regulator to be confirmed by the Senate, like once you get out there, I feel like it'll be more like headline and sort of on the ground driven. But right now, you've just got this period where all you know is it's going to be really positive, and so you just have to own it.
You've got a great chart and a great story.
Yeah.
And that's really all you need in markets.
Yeah.
And, I would not be surprised if we hit 100K in the next week or two.
Honestly, I mean, at this
At
rate,
this pace,
it could easily be like tomorrow,
could be tomorrow.
today, tomorrow, yeah, this week. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to assume there'll be some resistance there just from the
Yeah,
size of the number.
Yeah, I mean, gravity does take hold
Yeah.
at some point. And basically, Bitcoin's a 1.7, probably these days, $1.8 trillion asset, $1.9 trillion asset. And so every 10%, that's like, $190 billion of wealth being created. And so that's a lot of potential sell pressure. And so definitely at certain levels, gravity, 93,300 as we speak, gravity will take hold.
Right.
And folks do sell at big round numbers. And so I would expect there's resistance at 100K.
You have to assume that, I think.
That's a fair assumption.
So last sort of question here, there's been a lot of rumors on X and discussion. I know Mike was asked about this on Bloomberg about an hour ago, again on Wednesday that we're recording, about nation state adoption, whether it's the Bitcoin national Bitcoin stockpile, which is what President-elect Trump called it in Nashville in July, or other nations supposedly maybe looking at it. Like, does it? Could that be it? I mean, I don't know. I'm looking. You said it.
No,
at the top.
I mean,
you said it at the top though that we've been seeing most of this action during U.S. hours, and overnight U.S. it's been selling off a bit, and then so it doesn't feel to me like a foreign nation is the one bidding. Seems more like U.S. investors and U.S. institutions.
I think if you play Bitcoin out over the next 10 years, the game theory probably suggests that you will see nation states, figuring out ways to buy this. Central banks already do this with gold, where they print soft money and buy hard money.
Very.
And so, if you...
Must be nice.
But yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about it from that lens, Bitcoin's so cheap.
Right.
Like the moment you start to see real nation states accumulate this stuff, not saying that El Salvador isn't a real nation state, but
big giant size though.
Yeah.
The Emirates.
But again, it's
Middle
like
East
one
or
of
the
those
US
things where if you are doing that, that means that you're conceding the fact that your money's not really good money.
Yeah.
And so it's really...
this has been. I agree with this. I think if the U.S. is to do this, you got to be very careful in how they narrative this, right? Like we haven't bought anything to back the dollar in decades.
Yes, it's
right?
backed by the full faith,
right?
And
if you have to buy, but I think this is why he called it a strategic stockpile, not a reserve. I think there are ways to get something done. And to be clear, if other nations think we're going to do something like this and they start front running and trying to do it, then we really should do it.
Yeah,
that game theory is powerful.
It's super powerful. But I if I'm a country that respects my own currency, I wouldn't.
I know.
Wouldn't back it.
I've said if you were to back your currency with toothpicks, like it would harm your currency's value.
Yes. But you could definitely see a lot of like EM nations,
or
etc.
Like that's right, or like sovereign wealth funds rather than central banks. Like, there's ways.
There are ways. Yeah.
All right. Well, my friend Beimnet Abebe, I'll let you get back to it. Beimnet from Galaxy Digital Trading. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.